4 years since the departure of President Saleh, people remember him as the leader who shaped modern Yemen. The U.S. Special Envoy Lander King and World Food Program Chief discussed the humanitarian situation in the country. International organizations urge the United Nations to restart Yemen war crimes probe. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Roshan Fouad. Today, in Makha, a mass event was held in the residential city of December 2nd, organized by the Political Bureau of the National Resistance in commemoration of the 4th anniversary of the death of Ali Abdullah Saleh and Arif al-Zouka. The event was attended by Deputy Head of the Political Bureau of the National Resistance, Nasser Bagil, and Secretary General of the Political Bureau, Abdul Wahab Amir, and Brigadier Sadiq Duwaid. Number of statements were delivered that expressed honor and pride in the victories achieved by joint forces in the West Coast, government forces, resistance, and tribes in Ma'rib, El Jawf, El Bayda, Taiz, and all battlefronts. Today marks the 4th anniversary of the departure of the former president Ali Abdullah Saleh. His death was the most tragic moment in modern history. He is viewed by many local and international experts as the leader who shaped modern Yemen. He spent most of his career defending the Republican approach and democracy and sacrificed his own life for such noble values. The following report looks into the legacy of Saleh and how his absence left the country in chaos.
It wasn't just a call for uprising, it was a call for a Yemen for all. The popular call for unity made by the late all-time leader Ali Abdullah Saleh on the 2nd of December back in 2017 was a call for Yemenis to save the revolution against the Imami rule. Just days before assassination on the hands of the Houthi rebels in Sana'a, Saleh called people to rise up against the traitors of Yemeni principles and terrorists, the Houthis, who violated all Yemeni norms and rules. Knowing well that the conspiracy on Yemen was far from being only a local Houthi rebellion, the late leader realized that Iranian intervention in the country may invoke not only a collapse to Yemen as a single nation, but a collapse to the whole Arab nation in face of an Iranian plot and mindset. All his concern was Yemen, the unity in the country, its sovereignty, integrity, dignity, and solidarity were his occupation. That was a call for uprising the 2nd of December, a call for a return of a great historic nation for Yemenis. It was a call for a revolution and a stand against the Houthi incursion in the state and its institutions. The leader's call wasn't known fully and clearly, but until his later death, that opened the gate of evil on the country as a whole. Stability, which is a rare word for Yemen today, was fully known for the people during leader Saleh's time. This stability is the key word that was advocated for in the last words of Saleh. The 2nd of December uprising advocated by the brother Saleh bore the meaning of stability in Yemen through the hard way of confronting again a Houthi unjust rebellion that will eat the blessings of the nation. These blessings are now absent for more than 7 years. Currently, Yemeni heroes are now bearing the flame of Saleh's call for uprising against the Houthi rebels everywhere in the country. They are fighting back for their unity, sovereignty, stability, and for their Yemen.
Leader of the National Resistance, Brigadier General Tariq Mohammed Abdullah Saleh, met with head of the European Union mission to Yemen, Marion Lalise, and Ambassador of Germany, Mr. Hubert Baker. The meeting discussed developments on the Yemeni arena, joint forces advancements on the western coast, and the vision of the national resistance toward these developments. The meeting also discussed humanitarian situation in the West Coast, the humanitarian and relief activities of NGOs, and ways to activate them to serve the local communities in the area. To Rome, Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Ahmed Abul Ghait, said that Iran is seeking to extend its control over Bab el-Mandeb Strait, stressing that Houthi militia represents a threat to the security of the Red Sea. During his participation in the 7th edition of the Mediterranean Dialogue Forum, Abul Ghait said that Iran aims to extend its control over the Straits of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb, either directly or through the militias it finances. referring to the attack it carried out in the summer of 2019, as well as the continued threat posed by the Houthis to navigation in the Red Sea. The U.S. envoy to Yemen, Tim Lenderking, discussed with World Food Programme Chief David Beasley the Yemeni crisis. Lenderking said Beasley expressed their concern about increased fighting around Ma'rib and elsewhere in Yemen and the importance of ending threats to aid workers. They said that Houthis' escalation only brings more suffering to Yemenis who want peace. Warring parties have committed horrendous war crimes against innocent civilians. This put a pressure on the UN to form a war crime panel probe. This panel work was ended by a vote by UN Human Rights Council a couple of months ago. Now more than 63 human rights organizations have urged the UN to scrutinize against war crimes in Yemen. The following report has more details on this.
Human rights organizations called on the UN General Assembly to create a new panel of independent experts to collect and preserve evidence of possible war crimes in Yemen's bitter conflict for future prosecution. The organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, said that the matter is urgent, particularly after the UN Human Rights Council voted in to shut down its investigation into atrocities in Yemen. Agnes Callamard, Secretary General of Amnesty International, said that this needs a political will and the UN should take immediate actions now, adding that if there is no accountability, there will be no end to the horrendous conflict.
Let me be clear, first and foremost, that this should be done, and it absolutely can be done. What it will take is not a miracle, but it is simply down to political will. It is for member states to decide to proactively work together, draft a resolution, and for the majority of states to vote in favor of setting up the mechanism.
In their joint statement to the General Assembly's 193 member nations, the rights groups stressed that members should approve an investigative mechanism to demonstrate to the Yemeni people that the United Nations will not turn a blind eye to their suffering, and that they support international accountability for crimes and abuses committed in Yemen. The Yemeni government said that it welcomes any group to document human rights violations, and it's willing to cooperate like it did before. However, bin Mubarak said that the Yemeni government had an issue with the mechanism of the previous war crimes probe.
Bringing the human rights violation, we as Yemeni government, we welcome that. But we have an issue with that prominent experts and we discussed this during the Human Rights Council.
On the other hand, Timothy Lenderking, the U.S. envoy to Yemen, said that his administration hopes to reinstate the work of the human rights investigation teams.
Oh, absolutely. We do feel it would have been a group of experts, as the minister referred to. We thought it was a mistake that that there were such votes against its existence, and we'd like to see it reinstated.
UN Human Rights Council pushed through a vote in October to shut down its war crimes investigations in Yemen. Members narrowly voted to reject a resolution led by the Netherlands to give the independent investigators another 2 years to monitor atrocities in Yemen's conflict. It marked the first time in the Council's 15-year history that a resolution was defeated. According to activist groups, more than 100,000 people have been killed and 4 million have been displaced. The General Assembly and the Security Council have previously taken similar action against widespread human rights abuses. Scrutiny of war crimes in Yemen has stopped since then. How these crimes are not being documented. Yemenis, international organizations and Western states hope to restart war crimes probe in the country.
To Hodeidah, the Joint Forces engineering teams demined a Houthi-planted explosive network in a school in Hais. Yemen Today correspondent reported that engineering teams received reports from citizens indicating that they found wires and networks for explosive devices inside El Farouk Elementary School in Hais. Engineering teams found networks and booby traps connected to networks of dynamite canisters planted by the Houthi militia inside classrooms and under the school's foundations. The team demined all extracted and explosive devices planted by the rebels without taking into account dangers committed by them against students. Still in Hodeidah, the engineering team of the Joint Forces removed dozens of high explosive devices planted by the Houthi militia under bridges and on public roads in Hais. Sources said that the engineering team was able to extract a number of explosive devices of different sizes on the crossing roads of citizens and under bridges, which caused civilian casualties. Twice, 2 elders were injured by Houthi mortar shelling that targeted their house in Muharraq area. Medical and local sources said that Ali Dahbash and his wife Durra Hassan were seriously injured when their house was targeted by a mortar shell fired by the militia. Sources added that they were taken to field hospital in Al Khoukha to receive first aid. Turning to ties, Masan project destroyed 2,589 mines and explosive devices in Dubai. According to sources, the team successfully destroyed and detonated 2,589 mines, explosive devices, and unexploded ordnance. To Shabwa, government forces backed by tribes took up fierce clashes with the Houthi militia on northwest fighting fronts. Military sources indicated that artillery destroyed defenses of Houthi militia, causing heavy losses among the rebels. Sources added that engineering teams were able to extract and dismantle hundreds of mines and explosive devices that had been planted by the Houthi militia in the recently liberated areas west of the governorate. Turning to Maghreb, government forces backed by resistance defeated Houthi attacks from separate locations south and west of the city. Field military sources indicated that government forces and tribes fought violent battles against the rebels of Al-Majjah and Al-Qasara fronts. Meanwhile, military field source said the battles raged on the fronts of Wadi Dhanna, Rawdat Jahm, and the village of Al-Zur, in the southwest of the city, and on Al-Rish fronts, east of Al-Juba in the south. Further sources indicated that coalition airstrikes targeted the Houthis positions and reinforcements, causing heavy losses among them. Coming next. In the time of war, a fragile healthcare system is almost not functioning.
راتب الواحد 120 ألف، والكيس الدقيق ب18,000، والكيس السكر اليوم ب20,000. كم يعني بيعطي هذا الراتب كامل كيس سكر وكيس دقيق؟
المواطن اليمني يعيش في أزمة إنسانية وغذائية مؤلمة من غلاء الأسعار وفحشة الأسعار وغلاء الصرف والعملة الأجنبية في البلد.
حالتي الحين حالة لما ندب احنا شقيرة ما نقدرش ناكل الأكل داخل، ما احنا الحاجة صعبة.
Welcome back. Yemeni Minister of Health Qasim Buhaibah warned from dangers of the continuous deterioration of economic conditions, noting that the government is unable to stop it. Buhaibah said that economic situation in Yemen has become unbearable and needs urgent intervention and rescue with urgent internal and external support under difficult circumstances. He added that if resignation is a way to solve the crisis, many of cabinet members are ready to resign. In Aden, angry rallies roamed the city denouncing collapse of local currency, rise in prices, and deterioration of services. Local sources said that Sheikh Othman district witnessed widespread rallies to protest against the collapse of the currency and the rise in prices. Sources added that protesters blocked streets, burned tires, and chanted slogans against the government indifference. Bakers Association in Aden raised prices of bread roti by 50% due to the national currency drop. The association said that the decision came due to the rise in raw materials used for baking. The association indicated that rising roti bread prices is necessary to preserve the quality and to prevent closure of bakeries. Turning to ties, city traders block called on commercial sector to go for a strike and protest against the deterioration of the local currency. The bloc said in a statement that a general strike will start from today until next Monday. The statement demanded that urgent solutions be provided to the national economy, prevent the deterioration of the national currency, and restore its value. The ongoing war in Yemen has caused severe damage in the country's economy. As a consequence, the riyal value dropped hugely again after foreign currencies. This has been reflected on people negatively, especially when food is unavailable and people can't afford it. More details on this story are within this report.
The last 2 years saw a number of devastating shocks that burdened Yemen's vulnerable population and pushed the country to the brink of famine. These shocks include the currency crisis, the decline in humanitarian aid, the corona pandemic, in addition to a series of natural disasters. Each of them has aggravated the already low food security crisis. The United Nations announced that food prices in Yemen have risen by more than 90% since the beginning of this year, 2021. The World Food Programme said on Twitter that food prices in parts of Yemen have increased by more than 90% this year alone. This problem comes in light of the great collapse of the Yemeni economy, the decline in the value of the local currency, and the value of $1 reaching 1,600 riyals. The rapid rise in food prices in particular is an important factor in access to food in Yemen. The proportion of people suffering in access to food has similarly increased during the currency crisis that happened in 2018, a period that witnessed a rapid rise in both food and fuel prices. The rise in food prices affects every Yemeni family belonging to the poor and needy groups. People are suffering every day, yet no actions are being taken.
The healthcare system has almost collapsed. According to the World Health Organization reports, epidemics have started to spread nationwide. More details on the collapse of health sector in war-torn Yemen are within this report.
Yemen's health sector is suffering as a result of the country's long-running military war, economic decline, and institutional collapse. Functional health infrastructure has grown increasingly limited under the weight of conflict. Only 50% of health institutions are completely operational now. More than 80% of the population has difficulty obtaining food and drinking water or gaining access to healthcare. Healthcare provision is severely hampered by a lack of human resources and materials, and the conflict has crippled healthcare governance. Yemeni health status reports outline the deteriorating health conditions plaguing Yemen. The reports signal high levels of child malnutrition, low immunization rates, and outbreaks of transmissible diseases. Mothers and children are disproportionately affected by the worsening situation, with the latest findings estimating that 1 mother and 6 newborns die every couple of hours. Yemen has encountered a string of disease outbreaks over recent years, including cholera, diphtheria, and currently the COVID-19 pandemic, adding more strain onto the country's already precarious healthcare status. The longer the pandemic draws out, the more strain will be placed on under-equipped facilities and drained health staff members as they struggle to keep up with an influx of COVID-19 patients in need of specialized care. Health workers already face unsteady paychecks, staffing shortages, and prolonged stress. Reduced external funding for health, as well as unprecedented challenges such as COVID-19, pose uncertainty regarding the future of health services in Yemen. Yemen's health system is heavily reliant on outside money, and health services are mostly delivered through implementing organizations due to a poor health system and an over-reliance on development partners to carry out vertical health projects. External health funding has plummeted in recent years, leaving Yemen's health sector vulnerable to challenges like COVID-19.
The National Committee of Coronavirus announced 1 new case of the COVID-19 in Hadramaut. According to committee official, 1 death was recorded and 2 recovered cases. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 10,021, including 1,953 deaths and 6,915 cases of recovery. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. 4 years since the departure of President Saleh, people remember him as the leader who shaped modern Yemen. The U.S. Passion Envoy Lander King and World Food Program Chief discussed the humanitarian situation in the country. International organizations urge the United Nations to restart Yemen war crimes probe. This is the end of the news. It was Roshan Fouad. Thank you for watching.